Hi, hello everybody. It is Jill Allen here from Jill Allen and Associates, and I am bringing another segment in our series, but we're actually going to start a new series now. So this will be the first video in a series, and I'm going to call this next little mini series Traction. And if you've been following these series, you know that I spend a lot of time reading and listening to audiobooks. And one of the books that I just have really meant a lot to me in the last couple of years has been a book called Traction. And as we've been going through this COVID-19 pandemic here, it's really got me thinking about books that were important to me from a business perspective. And I think Traction is just really one of those books. And I don't know if you've had an opportunity to read it, but if you haven't or listened to it, I think this is just a great book for all business owners. And it really just talks about getting the pieces in place, like taking time. And it's kind of funny because we're in a mandated pause right now within our businesses, but really taking the time to evaluate, maybe even slow down, evaluate where you are in business and determine where do you want to go with business. And as I was rereading through this book, I was thinking, this is just a perfect concept to kind of kick off for this next series, in the sense of what do we need to do in the orthodontic industry to kind of help get our businesses moving forward. We know that there is going to come a time when we're going to open back up again. And I think, in the last series, we were really, in a very reactive mode of what can we do? But now that we've kind of settled in, and this is for now our new normal. We're getting a lot of CE time, or we're getting a lot of screen time. Hopefully you've been digging in and working on your businesses. I think now is a good time to look at, where do you want your business to be and to go once we come back online and get back to business as normal? So the first thing that I thought I would just talk about is, this is still a little bit in the reactive mode, but what should you be doing right now? We have been, for many of my offices and many of my doctors, we've been closed down, for 4 weeks at a minimum, maybe up to 6 weeks. And you have this collection of patients that you need to be checking in with. And so again, because I still have a lot of clients that I'm working with, this has been a big question that has come up and I've been coaching on. And I thought, this is just a great thing to be talking about. So what I want to talk about is, what do you do with your patients that you already have on the books? And I think that it's very important, if you've not done this already, it's really important that you think about, how am I going to virtually talk to my patients when I can't bring them into my practice yet? Yes, now maybe some of you have had to bring in some for emergencies or whatnot, but we can't actively start seeing our patients yet. But we have patients in active wires and active appliances. So the first thing that I've been, just really talking to my clients about is making sure that you're being consistent with your messaging as we are going through this and as we start to get closer to being able to open up again. So I want you to be thinking about, what do you want your patients to hear when you are reaching out to them to schedule maybe a virtual exam, or just reaching out to them on the phones? What are they hearing from you and from your team? I want you to make sure that you're just keeping things as positive and encouraging and hopeful as you can. We are going to get through this. I believe that we should hopefully be seeing patients again, or at least have the opportunity to start seeing patients again in June. I know, I don't know that any more than anybody else, but that's what I'm hoping for. And so what I want you to be thinking about is, what is the messaging that you're bringing to your patients through any of your social media platforms, or your actual in-person messaging that you're bringing to them? We want patients to see that you are the leader of your practice, that you are confident in our business and what will happen once we open back up again, and that they can trust that their care is in the right hands with the right doctor, and that you have their best interest at heart. The next thing that I want you to think about is if you haven't started doing this already, it's going to be really important that you're scheduling either some virtual check-ins or phone check-ins with your patients. And I think that it's very important that, depending upon the size of your practice, I know some of my larger practices, I've got doctors coming in every day working through client charts to just kind of determining which level of care they're at. Are they somebody that I need to be keeping a very close eye on? Is it somebody that, is kind of on a little bit more of an autopilot, or maybe some that are in observation that we're just okay to let sit for a little bit. But what you need to be doing is reviewing your charts. So maybe go back over your past 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 10 weeks or 12 weeks and just get a good snapshot of all of the patients that you had in your practice, and start prioritizing and reviewing your charts and seeing, is there anybody that's in elastics that I need to be worried about? Is there any particular arch wires that are going on, or active appliances that I need to be thinking about? Is there anything that I can, that I don't want to let slip through the cracks as I've got this time to be reviewing charts? So I want you to take a minute and just go through, review your charts, kind of prioritize from a patient standing. Who do you need to talk to? When do you need to be talking to them? And the other thing that I want you thinking about is when should you start to, kind of what priority should you be bringing your patients back once we can start seeing patients again? And then once you schedule these phone check-ins or virtual meetings, I just want you to have a very candid, honest, open conversation. You're going to have some patients that are so excited just to be talking to somebody outside of their family that they're going to be so excited to be talking to you. And you may have others that are just feeling just fine and, could be happy or not happy to be talking to you. And that's okay. Don't take it personal. But I want you to just think about, you should be reaching out via email, via phone, via virtual meeting, and giving your patients the opportunity to communicate with you the way they feel most comfortable. Maybe some will just want an email check-in. Maybe some want a FaceTime check-in or a Zoom check-in. Maybe some just want to shoot you a quick email or a text and just say, "Hey, doc, I'm good," or let me snap a picture and just tell me if this is something you need to be concerned about. Just meet your patients where they're at as you're going through this. The next thing that I think is really important, and I talked about this in our previous video series, but now is the time. We've kind of settled in to where we're at and what we're doing, but now's the time. Create some little videos. I think I had told you this before. I use Prezi to record my videos. There's lots of different platforms out there that you can record videos on, but it doesn't take a whole lot of experience. It doesn't take a whole lot of tools. You don't have to order anything special and wait for it to be delivered from Amazon. There's so many free tools out there for you to use to be able to create videos that you can then put up onto your YouTube or put out onto your Facebook page. So maybe you've got just a little video that you put together on how to clip a pokey wire, or common elastic positions, or how to fix an O-tie. Again, I've seen in a lot of the study groups, there's been a lot of just different tools that different people have been putting out. Kind of pick and choose what works for you, put it together, and make a little multimedia presentation for your patients. This is the time to have some fun, be creative, try something new. But the most important thing is, I want you to stay connected with your patients. I think now more than ever, it's going to be important because we're going to be ramping up. We're going to be gaining traction to starting to open our practice in the next couple months. So stay in front of them. The next thing that I want you thinking about is when you're doing your chart audits, and we're going to get through this, and now you're going to be thinking, okay, 6 weeks from now or 8 weeks from now, either I'm going to need to do another virtual exam, or little exam, or I'm going to be bringing patients into my practice and actually putting them physically onto a physical schedule. So what I want you to be doing is thinking about, when I am ready to start bringing patients back into my practice, I think we're really going to have kind of 3 different categories of patients that we're going to be looking at and bringing patients on in 3 different phases. So, of course, we want to make sure that we've saved room in our new patient exam column for any new patient exams and starts. So if you have any pending starts or pending patients that were ready to get started and we've just put everything on hold, that's going to be the first group that we want to get in our new patient column, because we want to be able to get their contracts signed, and we want to make sure that we have set aside, I think, a column in our clinic. And I think all the rules are kind of out of the way right now when we're first coming back on. So if we're going to do new patient exams and we're going to do starts from 9 in the morning until 5, or whatever your schedule is, I would assign one assistant that's going to come back and do starts for you, where you're going to be able to get that production moving again, and we're going to be able to get those starts going. So our schedule templates may have to be changed around a little bit so that we can get production moving again, so that we can get our collections up and running again. So we want to be thinking about in those phases, who are the new patient starts that we need to get in. I might even be evaluating from a new patient. If I have a group of new patients in the wings, am I going to be bringing back the 6-year-olds or the 12-year-olds? Am I going to be bringing back the 25-year-olds or the 45 adults that have full insurance and are ready to go with an Invisalign case? So we want to be kind of thinking about who we're going to be scheduling, and then we're also going to be looking at all of our active patients and determining who is most important, maybe who has an active expander or a wire or something that has to be actively brought in and moved. Maybe it's a day where we need to bring in all of our aligner cases and change out their buttons and get them moving on with their next sets of trays. So you need to be a little bit strategic about how you're going to plot back and bring back patients into your schedule. And I do not think that it's going to be the template that we have used if everything were just moving along. I think we're going to have like a 6 or an 8-week window of kind of a temporary schedule template that we're going to use to kind of get our patients filtered back in and then back on track to our traditional schedule. The next thing is, I want you to really be thinking about, is there a possibility that virtual consults have room in our new schedule? So think about, especially if you're a bigger practice and you're trying to bring back all of these patients, maybe you can still incorporate some type of a virtual consult outside of where you would traditionally have done consults. So maybe you've got patients that want to get in, but they don't want to be able to try and squeeze in because they're trying to go back to work and they're trying to do other things too in that 4 to 6 window. We've had a lot of time to spend time with our family, and maybe you're saying, hey, I'm going to be able to work longer hours, so I'm going to do a traditional day, but then from 6 until 8 at night, I'm going to schedule virtual consults just to meet and greet my patients and then bring them in for records and a start, or I'm going to bring them in for a records, then do a virtual. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but I want you to be thinking outside the box and thinking, how could I potentially utilize virtual consults to kind of get myself caught up and to meet patients where they're going to be at, because their life is going to be just as crazy as ours is once everything opens back up again. And the last thing I want you thinking about is, how many employees are you actually going to need when you start coming back online? And I think that we're going to see that ramp up, but I do think now's the time, kind of going back to our book here, now's the time to really evaluate, what do you need in your practice and who are your key players, and what do you want? You've got to restart here. What do you want out of your practice coming up? What do you want your schedule to be like? How many employees do you actually want? Are there things that maybe there's systems or different things that you've wanted to implement and just never have been able to? Maybe you've thought about outsourcing certain things. What a beautiful time, even though there's some money involved, what a beautiful time to kind of maybe look at some of that. So I really want you to be thinking about that. So that's it for me today. Again, this is our first in multiple on our series Traction. I hope that this is helpful, and I hope you just keep your head in the game. And now's the time to start focusing on business and what do you want out of your orthodontic practice as we move forward. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you next week.